He said it wouldn't fit, but I whispered, "Just go slow. I know how that sounds. Hi, I'm Emily. I'm 32, and I used to believe love was supposed to be effortless, like those movie scenes where everything just falls into place. But reality, it's nothing like that. Sometimes love asks for more than you can give. Sometimes it breaks you just to see if you'll stay broken or rebuild." I met Ryan 8 years ago at a car dealership, of all places. I was there with my brother, trying to pick out a used SUV, and Ryan was the quiet mechanic in the back who fixed everything with calm, steady hands. He wasn't flashy or loud. He didn't flirt or try too hard. He just noticed me, and that's all it took. We started dating soon after, and honestly, it was magic. He was patient, funny, and safe. That's the word I'd use most. Safe. When I was with him, I didn't have to pretend to be anything else. For a while, that was enough. Fast forward to our 5th anniversary, the day that sentence "it wouldn't fit a first" came up. I'd been planning a surprise for months. Ryan loved restoring old furniture, so I found this massive antique dresser at an estate sale. I bought it for him, had it refinished, and waited for his reaction. When we got home that evening, I told him to close his eyes and led him into the garage. His mouth dropped open when he saw it. He laughed, shaking his head, and said, "Em, it's beautiful, but it won't fit through the door." I grinned and said, "Just go slow. We'll make it work." We spent the next hour struggling, bumping walls, laughing until our arms hurt, and somehow we did get it inside. It was such a small, stupid moment, but it became our phrase. Whenever things got tough bills, arguments, stress, one of us would say, "Just go slow." And it reminded us to breathe, to try again. But years later, that phrase came back in a way that shattered me. Ryan had started changing slowly at first. He'd get home later from work, saying he had extra shifts. He stopped making eye contact, stopped touching me casually like he used to. The silence between us stretched until it became another person in the room. I told myself it was just stress. I told myself we'd find our rhythm again. But one night, I found his phone buzzing on the nightstand. It wasn't something I'd normally do. I respected his privacy, but something in my gut told me to look. The message wasn't explicit. It was worse. I wish I could tell her the truth. Her name was saved under customer, but my stomach twisted. I confronted him that night, my hands shaking so hard I could barely hold his phone. He didn't yell. He didn't even deny it. He just sat down on the edge of the bed and said, "It's not what you think." He told me he'd met someone months ago, a woman who came in to have her car serviced. He said they'd talked, just talked, that she reminded him of the person he used to be. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make him feel what I was feeling, but I didn't. I just whispered, "Why?" His answer broke me. "Because you stopped seeing me, Em." We both stopped seeing each other. I didn't know whether to hate him or hate myself, so I did what I'd always done. I stayed quiet. I tried to hold the pieces together. For weeks, we barely spoke. He slept on the couch, and I pretended not to hear him cry at night. Then one evening, I came home from work to find him sitting in the garage, staring at that old dresser, the one we'd almost broken our backs getting inside. He looked up at me, eyes red, and said, "I'm sorry." He told me it hadn't gone further, that he'd realized what he was risking and cut it off. I wanted to believe him, but something inside me had shifted. The trust wasn't gone completely, but it had cracks I couldn't ignore. We started therapy. Awkward, painful, slow therapy. Every session felt like walking barefoot on glass, but the thing that haunted me the most was that phrase, "Just go slow." Because that's what love had become, something we were trying to push through, careful not to break what little was left. One night, our therapist gave us a simple task to rebuild something together. Anything. It could be a shelf, a recipe, a memory. Ryan suggested fixing the old dresser drawers that had started sticking. So we did. We sanded, cleaned, oiled, and worked side by side without saying much. But near the end, when the drawer jammed again, Ryan sighed, frustrated. I smiled softly and whispered, "Just go slow." He froze, looked at me, and for the first time in months really saw me. His shoulders dropped and he nodded. "Okay," he said quietly, slow. That night, we really talked about everything. About how loneliness can live inside a marriage. About how sometimes love doesn't die in one big explosion. It just fades because no one's feeding it. We didn't magically fix everything. There were still nights I slept facing the wall, still mornings where I didn't want to try. But every day we tried anyway. Slowly, carefully. A year later, on our anniversary, Ryan handed me a small box. Inside was a tiny brass key. I looked at him, confused, and he motioned toward the dresser. "Top drawer," he said. When I opened it, I found a folded piece of paper. It said, "Thank you for going slow with me. I didn't deserve it, but you gave it anyway." I cried right there in our living room, clutching that note like it was a lifeline. Because maybe that's what real love is, not perfect, not always fair, but something that bends instead of breaking. Ryan and I aren't the same people we were when we met. We've hurt each other, disappointed each other, but we're still here. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Sometimes when people hear that phrase, "He said it wouldn't fit," but I whispered, "Just go slow." They laugh, assuming it's something else entirely. But for me, it's the story of how two broken people learn to rebuild something fragile. Love isn't about how hard you fall. It's about how gently you choose to stay. And sometimes that means whispering, through tears and silence, "Just go slow."